The Buffalo Bills 2024 schedule has been released, so we're breaking it down from every angle today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of Go Bills and Buffalo's Run, also the co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. I want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Well, folks, welcome in. The Buffalo Bills schedule has been released. We don't have to speculate over it anymore. We know who the Bills are playing and when they are playing those games. And so I'm excited to break this schedule down for you today. Whenever I do this on an annual basis, I like to just talk about it the way that I look at a schedule. And so there's a bunch of different angles and things that I'm going to consider when analyzing this for you. And so buckle up, let's have some fun and talk about the map forward, right? The path forward for the Bills in 2024. I do like to start with the preseason. I know nobody really cares about the preseason, but it's always interesting to me. The Bills have 3 preseason games, 2 of them at home, 1 on the road. They open with the Chicago Bears, then they go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they close the preseason out with Carolina. Some interesting dynamics in terms of these 3 games. Obviously, the Bears had the number 1 overall pick, and they drafted Caleb Williams. And so it will be cool to see probably Caleb Williams making his debut as a Bear against Buffalo. In Buffalo, that's pretty compelling. I'm interested in seeing that. Then you go to Pittsburgh, and what I really like about Pittsburgh is if you remember Pittsburgh last year in the preseason, they really stressed the Bills in terms of protection schemes, and Josh Allen was kind of running for his life in a preseason game, and you're all worried about the offensive line. Of course, that wind up stabilizing itself quite well, but I think it's a good opponent to kind of get some of those looks early, and of course, you get an odd front defense, which I think is helpful as you just start to navigate what the season's going to look like. And then you close with Carolina in Buffalo, and obviously an unfamiliar opponent. And I think that makes a lot of sense to kind of close out the preseason. So I don't want to spend a lot of time in the preseason, but those are the games that the Bills will play. They're all on Saturday. Then you get into this regular season schedule. And we knew that the Bills had a lot of challenging games. Now we know how they are set up, and in a lot of ways, it's very difficult. There's some breathing opportunities in this schedule, but by and large, I think it's pretty tough, and it starts pretty tough. Not necessarily in week 1. The Bills' season opener, 1 o'clock kick in Buffalo against the Arizona Cardinals. And I originally was hopeful that the Bills would open on the road against either the Rams or the Seahawks to get one of those West Coast trips out of the way. But once we knew that the Bills were playing in Miami in week 2, I then wanted a manageable week 1 game at home. And I think when you consider manageable week 1 games at home, Arizona absolutely stands out as that type of team. They are very much rebuilding and retooling. The Bills should have a considerable talent advantage over Arizona. A lot of new pieces, a lot of young players, a lot that has to come together for the Cardinals. So I think given your week 2 matchup being a short week in Miami, Arizona feels like a nice game to have in week 1. You got to have that one. You better start the year 1-0. You can't be having a hiccup against the Cardinals at home to start the year. Then it's at Miami for Thursday Night Football. And so as we get into this conversation, I like to consider that opening stretch of games. What does this look like for you right off the bat? And so you like Arizona at home, and then it's a short week on the road in the division. That's tough. That's tough. And you got to remember, this is going to be a very big game for Miami. Now, they open at home against Jacksonville, so it's not their home opener. But this is a team that had a 3-game lead in the division with 5 to play and blew it. And, of course, the full collapse came in Week 18 when the Bills went to Hard Rock Stadium and beat them and won the AFC East for the 4th year in a row. This is a game I'm sure Miami has circled, and it's going to mean a lot for them. And so not only is it on the road, short week division game, those dynamics make this a pretty tough one, in my opinion. Now, the Bills avoid the early season Sunday afternoon kick to not have to bake in the sun while Miami's in the shade. That's helpful. Still going to be pretty humid there for September evening. Humidity that's not like what the Bills and their players deal with in Western New York. Don't like that matchup at all. Then you do get the chance to come back home in Week 3 to host the Jacksonville Jaguars for Monday Night Football. And I think we're all a little bit nervous about the Jaguars because of what those games have looked like in recent years. Even my wife had a reaction when she saw, oh man, she's like, that game's in prime time. Had somebody in our Discord that had a hilarious comment. He said, ideally that game would be played at 1:00 on a Sunday, so that way only us, the Jaguars, and God knows what happens there. But no, it's an early season Monday night game. Now, what I do like about that game is you have a rest advantage, and really as big of a rest advantage as you can for not having a bye week. You're playing Thursday night football into a Monday night home game. And so you do get some extra time here to get ready for Jacksonville and hopefully exercise some demons because they've been a tough opponent for the Bills. But then you have this 3-game road stretch that is really tough. At Baltimore Sunday Night Football in Week 4. At Houston for a 1:00 kick. At the Jets for Monday Night Football. So you look at this opening stretch of 6 games, and it's tough. There's no way around it. It's tough. You have 4 primetime games, including 3 in a row, 4 in 5 weeks. One of them being a division game on the road, short week. And these are massive AFC games. You're going to want to have tiebreakers over Baltimore and over Houston. And then, of course, the Jets and Dolphins for divisional purposes, and who knows what Jacksonville's going to be this year. So big stretch here, like tiebreakers on the line early in the season. You don't have any room for a slow start. You do not have that. This is a situation where you got to hit the ground running, and that's tough to consider based on the coaching turnover, based on the roster turnover for the Bills. I mean, think about this team offensively. From 2022 into 2023, Ken Dorsey, all the continuity in the world. Of course, we love the Raiders and Commanders games and the Dolphins games early in the season last year, but offense kind of couldn't get out of its own way for a while there. Now you have a bunch of turnover. You don't have any room for that this year. You better hit the ground running. I think if you get out of that 6-game stretch, 4-2 or better, that would be ideal. So a challenging opening stretch of games for the Buffalo Bills in 2024. Let's look at the standalone primetime games. Each team is allowed a max of 6 primetime games. And remember, the NFL defines a primetime game as Thursday night football, Sunday night football, Monday night football. That's it. So not like London international games, any of that stuff. It's literally Thursday night football, Sunday night football, Monday night football. The Bills have 5 primetime games. A max of 6 is there. So the Bills don't get the max of 6. Your primetime games, Week 2, Thursday night football in Miami. Week 3, Monday night football in Jacksonville. Week 4, Sunday night football in Baltimore. Week 6, Monday night football in Jersey to face the Jets. And then your other home primetime game is Week 14, Monday night football against the 49ers. So 5 primetime games, 3 on the road, 2 at home. I always think it's interesting to look at the distribution of primetime games and see which teams get them. The NFL is very intentional about this. So teams with 6 are the Jets, 49ers, and Dallas. I do not understand the Jets at all. Like, the NFL has been trying to shove the Jets down our throats for the last couple of years. There's no proof of concept that this team is going to be good under Aaron Rodgers. The Jets have had like a losing record 8 years in a row. They finished last in the AFC East 6 of the last 8 years. Like, what are we doing? They get the max primetime games because they traded for Aaron Rodgers? All right, cool. Like, make it make sense. Like, you should have to earn that by actually having some level of proof of concept. But, they got to feed the hype train there. San Francisco and Dallas get 6. Teams with 5 primetime games: the Bills, the Chiefs, the Packers, the Lions, Bengals, Ravens, Eagles, Dolphins, and Rams. That's the bucket the Bills are in. The only team without a primetime game is the Carolina Panthers. They have none. Teams with 1: Colts, Patriots, Cardinals, and Titans. We need to get to the bye week as well. This is a very important piece of the schedule when your bye week falls. And the Bills bye week comes at a great time. Week 12. A late season bye is what you want. Week 12 after Kansas City and before San Francisco. You love having a bye week sandwich in between those two games. But as I've said repeatedly on this podcast, there is a correlation between late season bye weeks and Super Bowl winners. The last few Super Bowl winners, the Chiefs in 2023, bye week, week 10. The Chiefs in 2022, bye week, week 8. That's kind of the outlier. Week 8's pretty early based on other Super Bowl winners. The 2021 Rams, week 11. 2020 Bucks, week 13. 2019 Chiefs, week 12. 2018 Patriots, week 11. 2017 Eagles, week 10. I mean, this is a thing. You want a late season bye week. And hopefully you get 2 of them. Hopefully you're the 1 seed and you get a bye week in week 12 and then a bye week between the week 18 and the divisional, or in the first game that you have to play in the playoffs. So I love where the Bills bye week falls in week 12. I think that is very, very helpful. All right, folks, tons more to get into. Tons more. We got to talk rest advantages, quarterback matchups, weather games, all kinds of stuff here on the other side of it. So be sure to stick with me. Folks, you know what just happened. The NFL schedule is out, and you're going to want to get to games. Well, the best way to get tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you is the Game Time app. So download the Game Time app. It's incredible. It's easy to navigate. They specialize in last-minute tickets. They give you flash deals, all-in prices, a best price guarantee. They give you a view from your seat so you know exactly what to expect when you get to the venue. Oh, by the way, they send the tickets right to your phone, so you don't have to dig through emails to find them. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's keep breaking down this schedule. The next thing that I want to reference is the 1 o'clock kickoffs. If you were a fan during the drought years, you know all about Sunday at 1 o'clock. That's when the Bills played every week. Well, now that the Bills are a good team, that's not the case. The Bills do get 7 1 p.m. kicks, which is up from 5 last year. They only had 5 in 2023, 7 this year. It's interesting that 5 of the Bills' 8 home games are 1 p.m. kicks. And then 2 road games at Houston and at Indianapolis. I think there's a lot of people that are surprised that Houston game is a Sunday at 1 kick. I mean, it's not even like the 4:25 game of the week. It's Sunday afternoon, 1 o'clock kick. 2 playoff teams last year, 2 teams that won a playoff game last year. Diggs against Buffalo. You would think that'd be a pretty high-profile game. The NFL said, no, we're tucking that in Sunday at 1 o'clock. I'm a little surprised by that as well, but 7 1 o'clock kicks this year, up from 5 last year. Let's talk rest advantages and disadvantages. The first thing I'll say here is that the Bills play 0 teams coming off of their bye. You love that, right? You don't want teams to have all that extra time to prepare for you and get healthy. So no teams this year on the Bills schedule are playing Buffalo off the bye. You have 2 games with a rest advantage, maybe 3. Week 3 against Jacksonville, Monday Night Football in Buffalo. Of course, the Bills play Thursday night in Miami in week 2, so you get a 4-day advantage over Jacksonville coming to your place on Monday Night Football. Then you have week 12 against San Francisco. You play them off of your bye. I think that's a great opponent to get off of the bye. And San Francisco is actually in Green Bay the week before. So they have in Green Bay, in Buffalo, back-to-back weeks. I think you catch San Francisco at a great time. So those are your 2 actual rest advantages. You can certainly reference the Jets game in week 6, Monday Night Football in Jersey. The Jets play in London the week prior against the Minnesota Vikings. Now, it's not necessarily a rest discrepancy in terms of number of days, but that's a team coming back from London. I'm sure it's helpful for the Jets that it's Monday Night Football. But you feel like that could be helpful for the Bills in that scenario. So 2 actual rest advantages, maybe 3 if you want to classify the Jets as a rest advantage. You do have 3 rest disadvantages. You have week 7 when you host the Titans. The Bills play Monday Night Football in Jersey in week 6, so you have a day less to prep for a home game against Tennessee. You feel okay about that. Now, this one, not so much. These next 2, not so much. Week 14 at the Los Angeles Rams. Already tough to go across the country and play. The Bills are playing Monday Night Football in Buffalo the week before against San Francisco. And then you have a short week on the road in LA. That's tough. Perhaps nothing tougher than week 15, the following week at Detroit. Detroit is coming off back-to-back Thursday games, and then they host the Bills. 3 home games in a row. So Thursday Night Football, Thanksgiving at home. I think that's against the Bears. Then the following Thursday, they play Thursday Night Football at home against the Packers. And then they host the Bills on Sunday afternoon in Detroit. So those are tough ones. I think that situation in LA and in Detroit, your rest disadvantages are #not great. But all in all, I think the big win here is playing no teams off their bye, getting extra time for Jacksonville, getting extra time for San Francisco. Let's look at some of these quarterback matchups on the schedule. Your cream of the crop quarterbacks, of course, you get Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers twice, Matthew Stafford as like your big-time quarterbacks. Of course, you have Tua and Geno Smith and those types of guys, but those are like your marquee quarterback matchups. Mahomes, Jackson, Rodgers, and Stafford. But then I also like to look at the rookie quarterbacks, the very young quarterbacks that the Bills are facing. And it's not a ton, but there's some interesting opportunities. Week 5, CJ Stroud, Houston. That will be an interesting one. Week 7 against Will Levis with the Tennessee Titans. I keep saying this. I think that's a fascinating situation with Will Levis, who is a dynamic physical talent in terms of size, athleticism, and arm talent, but he's not necessarily a precision passer. He's playing in a West Coast offense with Brian Callahan, and it's based on timing and precision. It feels like an interesting fit to me. Second-year player, that'll be fascinating. You get Anthony Richardson in week 10. Top 5 pick last year, had some flashy moments, but was injured and missed most of the season. Brock Purdy in week 13. Fascinated to find out that one. Obviously, Purdy's had a ton of success. I also think he's extremely limited. The Bills have typically had a lot of success against these types of quarterbacks. Is Purdy the exception? I'm fascinated to find out. And then your only chance to play a rookie quarterback, barring injuries, is against the Patriots. And surely by week 16, when the Bills play the Patriots for the first time, Drake May is going to be their quarterback. And you get him twice in 3 weeks. You get Drake May in week 16 and then week 18. So those are the interesting quarterback dynamics. Weather games, It actually sets up fairly good. Week 2, you have a Heat game, Thursday Night Football in Miami. I think you're happy that it's a night game, so you're not baking in the sun, but that'll probably be your hottest game of the season. Then you have December home games against the Niners, Patriots, and Jets. Of course, we know there's always a chance for some wind and snow and precipitation in Western New York in December. So your December home games, Niners, Patriots, and Jets. Then you have week 18 in New England. That could certainly be cold or snowy. It's always worth pointing out Seattle. It's not that it comes late in the season, but it's like middle of the season, 4:25 kick. You always feel like there's a chance of rain in Seattle. You have 2 December road games that are inside at the Rams and at the Lions, so that's kind of interesting. And then I think the hot weather teams that have to come to Buffalo, they lucked out. Arizona, week 1 in Buffalo. Jacksonville, week 3 in Buffalo. And then Miami comes to Buffalo on November 3rd for a 1 o'clock kick. I think all of your cold weather teams that are coming to your stadium, they lucked out in avoiding any potential like super cold or snow games. Your home and away distribution this year is tough. I mean, you're already skewed. This is a year where the AFC teams have 8 home games versus 9 road games. But then the way that they are distributed in the schedule is pretty crazy. 4 of the first 6 on the road, 5 of the first 8 on the road, including the 3 in a row against the Ravens, Texans, and Jets. Boy, tough early road schedule. Then you do get a decent home stretch, week 7 through 13. You get 4 of 6 at home. And then also within that stretch, you get a bye week. So I think if there's a chance for you to like limit your travel in that 7-week stretch, you only have to play or you only have to leave Buffalo twice, which in the context of an NFL schedule feels pretty good. And then I think closing out the season with 2 of the last 3 at home, both division games against the Jets and Patriots. I think you like that, but this schedule skews heavily towards road games, and especially early on where you have 4 of the first 6 and 5 of the first 8 away from Highmark Stadium. All right, folks, on the other side of it, I want to talk about where I think the Bills can go on some runs, the closing stretch, things I wish that were different about the schedule, and the things that I love about the schedule. So be sure to stick with me. It's winner take all time in the NBA and the NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big, huge win of your own. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, folks, where can the Bills go on some runs, right? In the NFL, if you're going to be a good team, it's about stacking wins. And my first thought when I consider this and looking over the schedule is that it's tough. There's no room for the Bills to have like a big lull, like a multi-week lull where you are not playing reasonably good football. There's no real get right chances, right? Like you sometimes look at the schedule and you think, man, if we can just get to this part of the schedule, we can rip off some wins. It's not soft. That certainly doesn't look soft at all. I will say that week 6 through 10 feels like a really important opportunity to stack some wins. That stretch of games is at the Jets, again, with them coming off of a London game. Titans at home, at Seattle. Dolphins at home, at Indianapolis. Like you got to win like almost all of those games, it feels like. And then you get 2 home games in a row against the Chiefs and 49ers. So like that feels important right there to be able to claim some dubs. At the Jets, Titans at home, at Seattle, Dolphins at home, at the Colts, and then 2 home games against the Chiefs and 49ers. And then you get back-to-back road games against the Rams and Lions, both where they have rest advantages over you. And then I think the last 3 games of the season, like if you're considering the closing stretch of the year and you say, oh man, okay, the Bills got to go on a little run here. They got to win their last 3 to achieve this. You feel pretty good about 2 of those last 3 being against the Patriots. And then, of course, the Jets, and that being a home game against the Jets, and, of course, 1 home game against the Patriots. So, like, if the Bills are up against it and they have to win their last 3, I think you feel decent about that. So, let's get into the things that I wish were different and the things that I love about this schedule. Things that I wish that were different. I don't love week 2 in Miami. Again, I'm thankful that it's a night game. It's not really even about the weather. It's about, man, the Dolphins get you on a short week at their place. If there's ever a time that you want to play a team, it's on a short weekend at your stadium, especially early in the season where you know that Mike McDaniel's going to be in the lab all off season long, developing the new wrinkles to his scheme. And I'm sure a lot of what he's thinking about is having stuff specifically for Buffalo in week 2, unscouted looks, and a short week to begin with. Like, that is very advantageous for Miami. So obviously I wish that was different. Especially with, you think about the Bills defense and so much leadership being gone and having to play against a unique team like Miami. Like, I hate everything about that. I obviously don't love a 3-game road stretch of at Baltimore, at Houston, and at the Jets. I mean, nobody wants to sign up for that. So I wish that was different. I don't like that the Jags and Dolphins get off easy with avoiding late season trips to Buffalo. The Jags week 3, the Dolphins come to Buffalo week 9, early November. So you like to bring you love to bring hot weather teams to your cold weather environment later in the season. Well, you don't get a chance to do that. Weeks 11 through 15, where you have the Chiefs, the Niners, the Rams, and the Lions. I mean, that's grueling. You play 3 of the 4 conference finalists from last year, including the 2 Super Bowl teams. All in a 4-week stretch. Chiefs, Niners, Rams, Lions. And then I also wish that the distribution of the primetime games was different. The Bills have 5 of them. 4 of them are in a 5-week span. Like, can we spread this out a little bit? They all hit early in the season and all stacked on top of each other. So I wish that was different. Things that I love about this schedule. I love the Cardinals as the opening game. That feels like start the year 1-0. Now, my God, if the Bills lose that game, nobody's going to like the conversations we have to have, but go win that game, start the year 1-0. I think that's your silver lining to having to go play in Miami. You feel like worst case scenario, you're 1-1. The Jags game was always going to be a tough one. I think the dynamics surrounding that game is something that I love about the schedule. Getting them at your place with a rest advantage, a 4-day rest advantage, is very, very helpful. Obviously, Jacksonville, you'd love to bring later and make them play in the cold. But that's going to be a team that's working in some new stuff on offense, whether it's Mitch Morse and Gabe Davis and not having Calvin Ridley. And that's something to be mindful of. And I think defensively, they're going to be pretty sound, but new defensive coordinator as well. So I mostly love the dynamics surrounding that Jags game. I love getting San Francisco out of the bye. A unique opponent, a physical team. You should be healthy. And you get them at your place later in the season. I think that works out pretty well for you against San Francisco. I love the week 12 bye. As you know, those late season buys are very important. I like that the Bills get one of those. I like the closing stretch. Like I mentioned, Patriots, Jets, Patriots, 2 of them at home. if you got to win a bunch of games, you got to win 3 in a row to close out the year to achieve something. I like your chances to be able to do that. And then maybe the thing that I love most about this schedule, no Christmas games, no Thanksgiving games, no Black Friday games. So important days for me and my family. I don't have to try to factor in a massive work day in the Bills. I love watching the Bills, but I love them a whole lot more when I don't have to work them into my holiday routines. So there you have it. The Buffalo Bills 2024 schedule is here. Arizona Cardinals, week 1, Highmark Stadium, 1 o'clock, your opener. It's going to be a fun season. We'll be talking about it every step of the way here on Locked On Bills. We are daily all year long. In season, out of season, May, June, July. No matter what, we're going to be here for you. So don't miss anything. Make sure that you are subscribed. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills. And I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.